You won't believe what this kid is doing to elite attackers. Dean Huijsen isn't just defending. He's erasing strikers like they don't exist. At 6 feet 5 inches, he moves like a winger, scores like a striker, and defends like he's playing chess while everyone else fights in the dark. Stick around, because by the end, you'll see why Real Madrid panicked and signed him before he became unstoppable. Dean Donny Huijsen, a name now echoing to the corridors of Spanish football, didn't begin his journey in some grand academy under the blinding lights of ambition. He began it with sand between his toes and a ball that barely reached his knee. From Amsterdam to Marbella, the migration of a family sparked the ignition of one of football's most terrifying evolutions in modern defending. By 5, Dean wasn't learning the game, he was deconstructing it. Casa Unida CF saw a boy who moved like he could see 2 seconds into the future. Malaga CF saw more than potential, they saw inevitability. At 10, he was already a towering sentinel who didn't just anticipate danger, he nullified it. Dean wasn't interested in the noise. He was interested in control. While others screamed and slid, he listened. He learned. His coaches joked that he played like someone who had the cheat codes. Interceptions before the pass even left the boot, positioning that suffocated creativity, and composure so eerie it felt unnatural for a boy's age. At 16, he stood at 6'5", played with both feet, scored like a striker, and passed like a number 6. When Real Madrid and Juventus came calling in the same summer, he chose a road less glamorous. He chose to be challenged, not celebrated. He chose Juventus. It was in Turin that Dean Huijsen became forged in the fire of tactical rigidity. Starting with the under-17, he didn't linger. Within months, he had blazed through the under-19, netting 6 goals in 14 appearances. He was supposed to learn, not lead. Instead, he commanded. By January 2023, he stepped into Juventus Next Gen, Italy's brutal Serie C. His debut wasn't about flair or flash. It was about domination. He didn't lose a single duel. Then came the match against Foggia. 2 goals in a semi-final second leg. At 17, center backs aren't supposed to do that. But Dean Huijsen wasn't a defender by position. He was one by instinct, one by obsession. He obsessed over growth. Every training session, every rep, every mistake dissected with surgeon-like precision. Juventus locked him down with a contract till 2027, believing they had secured the future. But football rarely rewards patience. Serie A minutes were scarce. Juventus had Champions League ambitions and no time for teenage revolutions. He needed a stage. He needed Roma. January 2024, a loan move approved. Frosinone were rejected. Roma embraced him, and Daniele De Rossi gave him no grace period. Just a shirt, a debut, and trust. 13 appearances was all it took to shift perceptions. Dean didn't just integrate. He redefined Roma's defensive structure. His goal against Frosinone, the very club he declined, was an act of calculated vengeance. He took the ball deep in his own half, skipped past 3 like a winger possessed, and unleashed a strike from outside the box with the coldness of an executioner. He didn't roar. He didn't provoke. He just extended his arms and looked around. Provocative, perhaps. Necessary? Absolutely. The clip exploded across the internet. The Spanish press called in the air to Sergio Ramos. Juventus fans cried betrayal. Roma fans called for permanence. Yet behind the scenes, Juventus were shifting. Financial survival over footballing logic. They didn't say it to his face, but the message screamed loud. Dean was no longer the future. He was an asset, one to be sold. The door that once opened for growth was now a blockade. But before Europe could react, before the agents could assemble, Bournemouth struck. July 24th. A £15.2 million gamble that would rise to £18.2 million. Quiet calculated. Dean Huijsen landed in the Premier League like a ghost in the fog. His debut? Nottingham Forest. Unremarkable on paper, but inside the numbers, he won 9 aerial duels, more than most offenders manage in a month. He wasn't flashy. He was foundational. Then, fate intervened. Marco Senesi fell to injury. Dean didn't walk into the starting 11. He shattered the door. Bournemouth had conceded 19 goals in 13 matches. But after Huijsen's integration, the backline morphed. It wasn't about tackles or chaos. It was about silence, control, precision. Mistakes stopped in their infancy. Threats strangled before they bloomed. He didn't need to yell. He just showed up and made attackers disappear. December 5th, Tottenham was at a corner, a 0-0 Soakers. Dean rose like a colossus and thundered a header into the net. Bournemouth won, arms folded, face blank. He became the youngest Premier League scorer in the club's history. It wasn't a celebration. It was a statement. Then came Old Trafford, December 22nd. Bournemouth up 1-0. Dean ghosted behind defenders and slammed in another 3-0 final. Headlines screamed. Fans finally asked, who is this kid? He wasn't just Bournemouth's present. He was anchoring their identity. By season's end, the Vitality Stadium was a fortress. And at its core, a 20-year-old who played like time bowed him. No ruse, no panic, just precision. England had barely learned his name before Spain called it their own. Dean Huijsen had worn Dutch orange from the start. Under 17, under 18, under 19. He carried the Netherlands to a European Championship final. But Marbella wasn't memory. It was his marrow. Spanish rhythm, Spanish soil, Spanish breath. And in February 2024, it became official. Citizenship confirmed. Spain's under-21 didn't just welcome him. They built around him. March 2025, Nations League. Spain versus Netherlands. Rotterdam howled with betrayal. Dean didn't flinch. Subbed on in the 41st minute. He played like red had always been his color. And in extra time, he threaded the pass that sent Lamine Yamal through to win it. He didn't celebrate. He jogged back. Mission complete. Noise? Just another Tuesday. By 20, he had 2 senior caps. He wasn't a prospect. He was the blueprint. Luis de la Fuente didn't mince words. He called him limitless. And the buzz began. Real Madrid didn't blink. May 17th, 2025. 50 million pounds. No negotiations. The trigger was pulled. The badge awaited. Not just because of need, but because of desperation. Madrid's defense had been duct taped with bandages. David Alaba, Eder Militao, Antonio Rudiger. Patchwork at best. But Dean Huijsen wasn't a patch. He was the future's anchor. Madrid didn't buy perfection. They bought promise weaponized with maturity. They bought a center back who defends like a conductor directs an orchestra. One touch to control. One glance to scan. One pass to unalive momentum. The Bernabeu is not forgiving. A mistimed challenge becomes a meme. One poor match can unmake a career. But Dean doesn't blink. He never has. The plan was clinical. Learn from Rudiger. Play alongside Aurelien Tchouameni. Cover Kylian Mbappe in training. Face Robert Lewandowski under the lights. He wasn't bought to survive. He was brought to become the spine. Critics point to agility, to rawness, to space. But Real Madrid didn't need a sculpted statue. They needed granite. Something foundational. Something future-proof. Dean isn't close to his peak, which is precisely why everyone is terrified. Because if this is what 50 million pounds bought, what happens at 80 million pound form? What happens when the leash is off? Bournemouth used him reactively, firefighting, chaos diffusing. Roma gave him responsibility, and he returned them composure and chaos goals. With Spain, he played with freedom, elegance, tempo. He wasn't exposed, he was empowered. Now, Real Madrid aren't giving him a role. They're giving him the keys. Xabi Alonso sees the architect in him. Composure over panic. Design over drama. This isn't a center back who blocks. It's one who builds. He can switch play like a regista, press like a midfielder, and close space like a shadow. He can drift wide, step into midfield, become the genesis of an entire phase. And he's only 20. In a few seasons, defenders will be mimicking him. Not because they want to, because they must. Because he's not just redefining center back roles. He's rewriting the rules. And for La Liga's attackers, that's the apocalypse. Strikers who thrive on chaos hate silence. Forwards who feast on panic low calm. And Dean Huijsen? He is silence weaponized. He is calm as a shield. He is inevitability in boots. He doesn't slide. He doesn't scream. He waits. And when he moves, it's already too late. The terrifying reason every attacker in La Liga must fear Dean Huijsen isn't his height. It isn't his headers. It's the ice, the unreadable calm, the subtle dominance. You don't hear him coming. You don't see him panic. And by the time you try to dance past him, your rhythm is broken. Your lane is closed. Your options gone. Dean Huijsen doesn't stop attacks. He deletes them. Is Dean Huijsen the prototype for the next generation of defenders, or has he already become their final form? Did Real Madrid just invest in calm as a weapon? And how do attackers survive a world where panic no longer exists on the back line? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you're here for the rise of legends before the world knows their name, subscribe and never miss what's next.